Okay, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. In a few minutes, about to begin workflow and creating 3D props for games.
Hold up.
Okay, so once more, encouraging everyone to register. Again, the link, pasting down the link for everyone to register. Okay, giving you another 5 minutes to register. So we will be, in addition, we will be raffling away a LinkedIn Learning subscription for you to learn more on how to create 3D props for games. So once more, another 5 minutes, requesting everyone to register with the link in the comment description. 5 minutes. Okay, let's begin. So, once more, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for workflow in creating 3D props for games. So, one of the learning objectives for this evening is we will get to know more about meshes, UVs, baking the model. Okay, so everything. That we need to know in order to create awesome props for games. And with that, it requires different sets of software. So again, our sharer for this evening, okay, so is also an educator. Okay, so without further ado, let me add in our sharer to inform us more about creating 3D props for games. Let's give a warm good evening and welcome to Miss Jack Vicente. Hi, Miss Jack.
Hi, is my camera enabled? Nope. Hi. Hi, Jamar. Nice to see you again.
Ayan. So finally, it happened. So we invited Miss Jackie along a few months ago, and so it's finally happening. Ayan.
Actually, a few
So
years ago pa eh.
ayan, to warm things up daw, ayan, in a few, ano daw, words, Miss Jack, ano daw, what do you do?
Few words, what I do. I teach. I teach, and I also manage a team of artists. Yan, few words.
Ayan. Okay. Do you have any slides or ano,
Oh, yeah, I
videos to
do.
share for us?
Well, I have my
Again,
PowerPoint here.
yep. Again, requesting everyone to ask questions. So this is not a conversation between me and Miss Jack. So encouraging everyone to comment down and ask questions.
Yeah, so I just have to share screen, right?
Yep.
Share screen. Tap, and then share screen. Oh, can I
Also,
select
once
one
more,
screen lang ba dito?
suggesting you select the whole screen and then
Oh, I
enable
see.
share system audio. There's a
Okay.
small tick box at the lower left.
Oh,
Share system
okay.
audio. Thank you
There's no
so
audio
much.
naman on the PowerPoint.
Yep.
Ayan.
Again, shout out to our friends in Binildian Industrial Designers, Sir Archie Velasco of FabLab Philippines, FabLab Mindanao. Iris, ayan, Palawan State University, good evening to our friends in JPSME, UAPSA, Philippine Institute of Civil Engineers. I know there's a lot of kids who are already taking up engineering, also eager to know more about games. So this generation naman, 'di ba? Grew up. Even me and Miss Jack grew up in this generation of
Yeah.
playing games.
Mhm.
Okay. We're now seeing your slide or screen.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Are you gonna start?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. See. Okay, thank you, John Mark, for that lovely introduction. Anyway, guys. Hi, guys. My name is Jacqueline Vicente. My friends call me Jackie or Jack. And I'll be sharing to you guys my workflow in creating 3D props asset for video games. So this could vary from one artist to another. So I'll just be sharing you what I learned throughout the years. Mm. So My name is Jack. I'm a VFX artist, generalist, and also an animator. So I was also able to be a modeler, texture artist, uh, rigger, animator, compositor, and then eventually VFX. So finally, so if you're wondering, as a VFX artist, what I do, uh, I make things explode. I do a lot of simulation of fire, smoke, debris. I also do water simulation if necessary or needed. And I also love working on destruction, scene destruction, like buildings crumbling. What else? Buildings and floor crumbling, ganun. So I really enjoy doing that because you see how the physics work and how amazing the softwares has been throughout the years. Aside from this, I'm also an educator. So these are my students. They've already graduated, but hello, guys. Um, yes, I really enjoy teaching. I've been in the industry of academia for 8 years already, going to nine. So what I teach them is 3D, 3D animation and modeling. So what I do in the industry, I teach nila. So every pipeline that I know, I learned throughout the years when I started being a 3D artist, tinuro ko sa kanila lahat ng mga pinagdaanan ko noon. I shared it to them. Ayan. So, right now, some of them are nagamit naman nila. Some of them are working on 3D projects. Ayan. So, I'm really happy for them. Yeah. So,
Awesome.
aside sa pagiging, yeah, educator, ayun, I'm a part-time educator and part-time VFX, and now I've fully committed myself to working again in the game development industry. So I'm with Keywords Manila right now as their PM, and I am working with 2D and 3D artists and our super duper awesome art director, of course. So enough of me. Now I'll be sharing to you the phases of development when pag nasa production na kami. Kasi
Mhm.
at first we do pre-production. So pre-production is that would be the game designers. They would design everything, the ideas, the levels, and then when everything's polished up, may art bible na, then we'll begin with the production. So production in 3D is that the phases of development. So what we do is we do a lot of R&D or research and development. And then after we've done the enormous R&D, we then proceed to blocking, which is what you see here, blocking. And then after that, we do the high resolution or we add details na to the mesh. So it's very important that we establish a good blocking or base mesh of the initial model kasi everything will be based from there. We should get a very good silhouette of the reference that were given to us. And then after that, we can go and proceed to the high resolution. That is where we add a lot of details na. And then after that, after we've done the high res, probably we do it in ZBrush. We may sculpt it ganun, for characters and for some props. And then after that, we reduce the number of polygons or triangles. Kasi when we're inside ZBrush, it goes as high as millions, no? So we decimate it and then we bring it back inside the 3D software that we use. Right now, I'm using Autodesk Maya, no? And then we do the low resolution. So we fix the topology of it just to make it more optimized para ready siya sa in-game. Then after we do the Loris, we then proceed to UV and baking. So for UV, of course, we also follow some padding and we should have a very optimized UV planning para when we go to baking and texturing, we've consumed the entire UV space, so nothing is wasted. And then after that, we go to render. So we do like beauty renders, ganon. So we could submit it to the client, or we could test it inside the engine that we are using. So we give it to the developer. So okay na, we can use it. So for the R&D, like I said, we do enormous research. Sometimes the client give us a lot of references. No, way back on my past companies that I've worked on, uh, they give us a lot of references. So we don't have to do research over the internet, but sometimes we have to do it ourselves. The references are very limited, so we have to search it over Google. So one of the not probably website, but we go to Google or we go to YouTube if there's not enough images on Google, YouTube, for kasi some people do reviews nung mga, let's say, props na we are to model. So we go there, we watch how they um make reviews. Sometimes they dismantle the props or the equipments that we need to make an asset, no. And then we also visit Pinterest because there's a lot of images there. And also we check ArtStation or other art websites out there that we could get a inspiration and source of inspiration. So right now, if you guys are seeing this, this is the asset that I'll be showing to you, what you saw on the front page a while ago. So when I do my R&D, uh, I use PureRef. Before I don't use PureRef. I just download all the images and rename it one by one. But this was introduced to me a couple of months ago by my colleagues at work. You guys are awesome. Thank you for sharing this wonderful application. This is PureRef. Let me see. Yeah, this is PureRef. All your reference images in one place. So this is free. You can search it over the internet and try it out for yourself.
Yep. Link
Ayan, it
in
just
the
logged in.
comment description for PureRef.
Should I be the one linking it
Nope,
on the
nope.
comments?
I've already pasted it. So
Oh, cool. Thank you.
done,
So
done.
this is PureRef.
PureRef.
So I do R&D. So when I do my R&D, I make sure that I get the form, and then I get the scale. So what size, how big, how big or how small the asset would be in comparison to the character that will be holding it or interacting with it. So it's very important that we know the scale. We don't just model it and then, you just wing it. We follow a unit system, probably meter to centimeter. And so it really depends on the project that you'll be handling. So it's better to ask the clients or your art leads or art director what's the unit setup that will be followed. So all of you, all of the artists are in the same page. Not no one's gonna be maliligaw dun sa scaling. And then after when I'm done with the scaling, these are the only two features that is I think it's fine with me. Then I search for materials. Of course, I get a picture of the reference, and then I try to look at it at Google. And from what I found, this one, the frame is made out of carbon steel bluish finish. So I search over again at the internet, and this is what the carbon steel looks like. Although it's not blue, pero we can change that on the software. And then this handle is made of wood. I just grabbed something that is very near to the actual reference that we have. And then this one, I assume that it is nickel. So yeah, these are something that I should be remembering when I begin my texturing. So after I'm done in collecting my material, knowing the form and the scale, I then go to detail and finish. Oh, before I forgot, the reason that I need the form is because it's very important to have a reference of its side view, top view, bottom view, quarter view. These are all very important because it's like we are going to trace this over Autodesk Maya. If we don't have a very clear reference of this, you can look for blueprints over the internet because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of blueprints out there that you can use. So in here, we can see that this one is, if we take off all the colors in this picture, we could assume that this one is the shape of a rectangle. This probably, the frame probably originated from a shape of a rectangle and it was just extruded to capture the form that we're seeing here right now. And then when we look at it on the quarter view, we can now assess that it is not a rectangle but cylinder. That is why it's very important to have all the angles of your reference before beginning the model or the asset inside the 3D software. So in here we have the top view. What do you call this? This part here is the barrel is a bit narrower um, here, and then it goes a bit wider on this area, while this cylinder is bigger than the rest. So it's pretty obvious when you go in top view. Okay. And then when we go to the detail and finish, this one, I grabbed this over YouTube. And luckily, I found someone doing a review of this Model 36 revolver gun. So I play and pause so I could get all the details that I need. In here, we could see that this cylinder and this part over here, it has this a bit roundish shape, and this one is flat. And then in here we have a more information from the bottom view of this gun, what it looks like when the cylinder is loaded, and what it looks like when there's no bullets inside. So in here we see that there's a lot more detail on the cylinder. So to those of you who were able to have experience holding a gun like a revolver like here, you can take a look at it, or you could also buy a or get you can also get a toy gun if if you'd like to know the feel before doing your 3D asset. And then in here I also collected what the bullet would look like, colors, and I found out that colors vary from one bullet to another. So it really depends on what mm, the user bought. So well, I don't really use guns, so I'm not I'm not really sure if the bullets will change in terms of color. But when I search over the internet, there's a lot of colors of it, from light to dark color of this. And then in here, when the cylinder is not taken off like this one, we could see that there's a hollow hole inside here. So we could also model that as well on our 3D. And then this is what the trigger looks like. And also this is what the hammer looks like. So if you notice, when the light changes, the color also changes, and also the finish is very different in comparison to what we have here, which is the brand new model. This one is a bit used, so we could apply this for the finishing touches when we create our 3D. Yeah. So this is for so this is what I do in research and development. The more images that you could get, the better, because you have saved a lot of information and you'll be saving yourself a lot of time going back and forth. And what you can do is, if you have a lot of information, you can just use the file, and then what you can do is, you can just save it. So what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just save it, and then what you can do is, you can just get all the information you need before you begin with your task. So after we do R&D, and after I've studied all the features in here, Autodesk Maya for this talk. So Autodesk Maya is a this is you can go to autodeskmaya.com if you want to get a hold of the software. If you're an educator or you can get a educational version for free. All you need to do is show them a document that you are indeed an educator or a student for this term. So just go to their website. And this is what we're going to use in modeling our 3D asset. And then we will also be using um, what's this? We'll also be using Adobe Substance. So Adobe Substance says that it's Black Friday and it's 50% off. So better grab a copy of Substance 3D Collection. I think this is a very wonderful offer, guys. So better grab this one now. And I think this is until December 2021. I'm not sure. I've been checking their website for a while. Sometimes it shows, sometimes it disappears. So probably, yeah, get yourself a copy of this. So we're gonna use very useful in texturing your 3D asset. There are other texturing softwares out there too, like Mari, but right now we are going to use 3D Painter. Okay, sir. So yeah, so after my R&D, after the R&D, we then proceed to initial blocking. So the initial blocking is that we try to capture the initial shape of our reference that we have here. So it doesn't for now it doesn't really matter if it's not that detailed. I mean, as you can see, all of it is just made of cylinder, the barrel cylinder. This one is made of cylinder, and some other parts are as well is made of cylinder. While the other, we assume that this is made of started from a cube, and then we just extruded some parts. So this is the wireframe. Once we're done achieving or once we're satisfied with the blocking, you can check its silhouette. Just turn off your lights inside Maya to see if indeed it does look like a gun, or if it doesn't look like a gun, then something's wrong with the silhouette. The silhouette is very, very important because, in games, uh, sometimes there would be rooms that would be so dark, and the audience or the gamers should be able to distinguish one object to another based on their silhouette. Then after we're done with blocking, I draw over because there are times that I find it challenging to mm, I find it challenging to understand reference. So what I do is I just draw over them. And see if this is a cylinder. This is what it would look like if I try to extrude it inside 3D. Okay, yada yada yada. So I do this sometimes, and but most of the times I just rely on the reference image that I have. Mm, to new 3D artists, it would I think I would advise that if you're having find it hard to do the initial model, probably because one, I learned it from my friends, is that we see a lot of details, especially when it's colored, like mm, like here. Here we see a lot of details in this image that it creates the illusion that, oh, that's too hard, man, I can't do that. But if you look at this in black and white, uh, then we remove the information of color. So our eyes tells our brain, oh, I think I can see the shape now, or we could increase the contrast so that the information of visuals transfer faster and we're able to understand it more. You can try it out if you like, or if you really find it hard, just grab a line art or a blueprint because that would be a lot easier. And then you can use colored reference if you're more comfortable. After that, after I trace the shape and format the mesh, then we proceed with the high resolution. So yeah, I then I do add some details like I smooth things out, add some bullets. It's very far from what we saw a while ago from the blocking, but it will take a lot of time because we'll be adding a lot of edge loops, increases the tessellation, make sure that when we play from the 1 and 3 command button or shortcut button at Maya, everything would look refined and polished. So I guess my advice for that would be slowly but surely, because some of the problem that we've encountered and what I've learned before is that there are artists that are very they like to add a lot of details immediately on their model. Uh, when the truth is that if we are so um, persistent in creating a high resolution model, we could easily make mistake. And by having those mistake, it would be very hard for us to undo those mistakes because everything is created in high resolution. In high resolution, there's a lot of like poly counts, like it could go to like 100, and it's very hard to fix thousands of vertices all at once. That is why um, I usually work on blocking and a very optimized mesh. And I make sure that before I commit to the high resolution, everything is already perfect. Or, yeah, perfect. So after I work on the high resolution, so here is a copy of it or a picture of it. This is what it looks like. I separated hmm, the cylinder and this part because inside the game, when the character is holding the gun and this is a revolver, this cylinder will be animated. So I separated it here on the model. This is what it looks like when it's in high resolution. So there's a lot of vertices and triangles here. We also make sure that everything is in quads, but when we sometimes import it inside the game, but when we import it inside the game engine, it will triangulate. So it's very important that the mesh will receive good bounce of light inside the game. So we make sure that when we model things, everything is in quad. And if there's some parts that would be in triangle, we usually hide it, especially on characters. We hide it on places that is not commonly seen or will be hidden probably by hair or some stops. So this is my high resolution. And then when I'm done with my high resolution, I optimize it. So this is what the optimized version would look like. So I think I've optimized it too much, but we could increase it. This is what the my low res looks like. As you can see, it's not that far from my high resolution. It still have the same silhouette, same form, same shape. I just reduced some details in here. So what you see here, I have a model here, but I removed it in my low resolution. Also, if you notice some details that I added here in my high resolution, where is it? This one, it's modeled in my high resolution. This one as well is modeled, and this one. But if we go to our low res, it is now, it's no longer there, because it's not actually hmm, adding any distinctive form when we rotate the, or when we look at the model on different angles. But we could cheat all of these details using normal map, so that's not a problem. So in games, we also rely on LOD. Oh, by the way, this is what the low resolution looks like when it's textured. It's still in an optimized form, but it looks pretty much high res. So I'll be explaining to you further, or showing to you how did this happen. So these are the things that you should follow: blocking, and then adding details, and then when after you added details, that is when you optimize or create a low resolution of the model. So, but don't forget also the R&D. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's colored. And then I would like to share that in games, we also do LOD, or level of details. The closer the asset is to the character, the higher the resolution or the poly count of that model would be. So let's say we have a gun, or yeah, we have a this one, this revolver. Let's say it's so near to the character or to the camera. So we would increase the triangle count of that would be, let's just say that it's 30,000 triangles. But when it's far away from the camera, then there would be a different model of it that is, we could say, 2,000 triangles. So there would be LOD 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But all of those models will have a mm, super high resolution, or yeah, super detailed resolution, high poly count, and then the lowest would be have the lowest poly count. So it's very important. So if you would like to know how many LODs should I be making, better ask your team leads, and it will also depend on what the client will be asking for that project.
Miss Jack,
Making, yeah,
for how
yes,
about for
yes, Yammer.
first person shooter games? What's the LOD or the number of polygons
Oh,
for those
yeah.
FPS games? Any
Uh,
idea?
for the FPS game, it really depends on what kind of, let's say it's an assault rifle, or a or a pistol, or
Yeah.
it really depends on what kind of gun, and how much the how much that game could handle. It will always depend on the client requirements, because they will be giving that to us. So I can't really give you a good estimate, because it really varies from one game to another. And so the LOD is level of details, and
Ayun, oo. Yep.
level of details. So yeah, after we've done with the low res with texture, of course, before we texture it, we make sure that the UV is properly fixed. So this is what the UV looks like. We could still optimize this, but as you can see, we have this 0 to 1 ratio. We make sure that all the UV shells are inside the 0 to 1 ratio. So yeah, so let me play this. So in here, we make sure that everything is in 0 to 1 ratio. All the UV shells that is shaded in blue are the UVs. Make sure that it's not outside the square nor too much inside the square, because we'll be wasting the UV space. Rather, it should be inside, and let's make sure that every spaces that we see here is consumed. because let's not waste. Cannot just mm, make these shells come near each other or be near each other, because there would be texture bleeds, meaning one color will be bleeding to the another UV, the blue ones in here. So we have to avoid that. That is why we are separating or avoiding or adding some spaces in between.
Miss Jack,
Yeah,
again, those who are not familiar, this UV editing stuff is in Maya, diba? Right?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes. This is inside Maya. This is just the UV editor. Okay. So yeah.
Yeah, for the benefit of the
And
absolute
then
beginners.
for the absolute thank you, John Mark. Thank you. And also once we're done with the UV, we make sure that the textile density is properly how do you call this? Um spread, or the checker is equal from one mesh to the other. So this is a yes for pixel density, and we should be avoiding checkers like this, because there would be obvious how do you call this, a blurriness on the texture. So per se, we added a texture here, and some parts of the mesh would look so crisp and sharp, while some parts of it would look so blurred and pixelated that it would be so obvious inside the game. So we have to avoid that. That is why we have to maintain a pixel density that is properly spread. I'm not sure with the term, but it's properly disseminated on the entire mesh. We could use some commands inside Maya for that to help us to do the layout. But yeah, make sure that you don't just do the auto UV. For me, that's well, I don't use that. I make sure that all of my UVs are properly. Let's say this one, the barrel would be spending or would be located near with these other meshes, because I want them to be together. And let's say, and also because I want all the materials that would be sharing the same texture, like metal would be together, the UV that would be sharing the same texture like wood would be together, so it won't be that hard, and we still preserve the aesthetic of UV. Well, that's for me. And then when we're done with this, or if we're satisfied, make sure, oh by the way, make sure that the textile density and the UV is like 70% and above the 70%, yeah, 7% and above, so that it means that we have a very optimized UV spacing. There's a command inside Maya where you can see the percentage on how much have you used or consumed of the UV space. If it's below 70, then it means that there are a lot of spaces. As you can see here, there are still spaces here that we can still make use of. And then
Yes.
after this, we then prepare it for baking inside Substance Painter. But we make sure that both of these meshes will be sharing the same axis of XYZ 000. Both of them overlaps. The low resolution overlaps the high resolution for better projection of details to the low resolution. So that's how we do it. And we usually double check. If you're not confident if both mesh are overlapping each other, you can ask your colleague, hey, do check this out. Am I doing it correctly? It doesn't hurt to ask a second opinion because two heads is better than one. So after
Absolutely.
this, and after this, what's after this? Oh, after that, we proceed to baking. So this one, it's inside Substance Painter. We import the high resolution to the low resolution. So it's now projecting inside Substance Painter. All of the details of the high res is being projected and being captured and transferred to the low res model. So the low res will get the smoothness of the high resolution while still being optimized. So that is the power of baking. And if your
Again,
computer is powerful enough to bake 4K, better. Yes, Mark?
uh, once more, we have for the absolute beginners. Sam is hearing baking for the first time. So, of course, when hearing baking, they get to think about the dough and the bread. Again, what is baking in the props creation? Is it from Maya to Substance, or the baking process is just in Substance? And yeah,
Mm,
in layman's
mhm,
term daw, what is baking in props creation?
mm. Thank you so much for that, Mark. So, way back, way back, when there was no substance, we used to bake using Maya. So there's this thing that we call transfer maps, and that is where we model at the same time we bake our textures. But now we have Substance and there's Mari. We transfer our models from Maya into Substance, so we could bake those textures. Now, what is baking? It's not your typical baking in the oven. Rather, baking is uh, yeah, it's creating or it's producing different types of maps for our 3D asset. So we could have an ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is like trap lights uh, that I will show you in a while. And then we have roughness, we have metallic. Before there was specular. We could also be normal map, height map, displacement map, etc., etc. So if you're wondering, what kind of map should I be using? Really depends on what you're making. So in here, we're making a gun. Yeah. Okay. We're making a gun. So the gun is made out of, whoops. The gun is made out of, what is it? It's made of carbon steel bluish finish. So we would need a um, metallic map and then some roughness map. So it could help us control the, hmm, the intensity of light if it should be matte or matte meaning it does not receive that much light, so the light is diffused. And if we increase the roughness, it could look like the light is have high intensity, so it would be like a mirror, like if you look at a glass, something like that. And then we'll be needing also some height map because the wood would have this feel of roughness or unevenness, like this one. So we'll make decal for this. So if you're making a character, that would be different. Probably the character wouldn't need a metal unless it's a robot, you know. Okay. So
Uh, Miss Jack, please correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding for baking texturing is you need those workflow or techniques in order to create realism
Mm,
to your
yeah,
assets?
indeed. Yes, indeed, Jomar. We need those. We need to combine all of those. Yeah,
To
we need
have
to
that
combine all
3D
of these.
model more more realistic when it comes
Yes,
into rendering.
yes, yes. So this is
Okay.
what the baked texture looks like. On the left, this is our ambient occlusion. And on the right, this is our baked map or baked normal map with some height, as you can see here. So the normal map always will always look like this. It's the RGB from the channels that you usually see in Photoshop. Before there was bump mapping. Bump mapping is a just black and white. But then there came but then there came normal map. And normal map gave life to RGB, and that is how normal map came into existence and used most of the time. But before we used bump map. Yeah, so this is AO or ambient occlusion. This is NM or normal map. And then we also have metallic. This is just black and white and some roughness. So if you notice here, this is the metallic. It doesn't look like metal, but you see here all the white things that you see or the edges and the black. Uh, that would mean that the usual rule is white is opaque and black is transparent. Therefore, black does not receive that enough light. And while white, this one, will receive so much light that there would be, uh, uh, it would receive light that light would interact with the texture. So if we do a, how do you call this? Mm, how do you call this? So let me do this again. White is opaque and black is transparent. Black will not receive that much light, but this one is not really 100% black. This is semi, like a bit of dark gray. So this will still receive some light, and we can still see shine on the asset when we use this. In this area, this is transparent, meaning that, oh, there's not much light happening here. So probably there's no metallic light that will be present in this area because this is made of wood. That's why this area is all black. There would not be any metallic texture present in this area in comparison to this one.
Miss Jack,
So this, yeah,
yeah, is that the same concept with Photoshop's layer masking, the black and white, or different?
mm, I would say they would be very much alike. Although the masking is much simpler, I suppose.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
And
so mhm.
someone is asking, can we use Photoshop to create textures?
Of course.
Oh, if
Uh,
I don't have money to purchase substance, can we use Photoshop?
yeah, absolutely. Uh, there was a time that there was no substance painter, and we use Photoshop, and we usually visit cgtextures.com if I'm correct. They give you can download free textures there from 2K to 4K, I think. But there's a limit for each day. I'm not quite sure what's the file limit now, but it was very, very useful before because we get to download seamless texture there, and it was very handy, especially when we were working on big AAA game titles before. I won't be mentioning their names, but yeah, you can use Photoshop if you don't have Substance Painter. But do try using Substance Painter because that is a very awesome software.
I guess it makes things more easier, right? if
Yeah.
you have substance.
Yeah, because John Mark, 3D artists nowadays are very, very lucky because there's Substance Painter now. In comparison to before, it was painstaking to do to do manual texturing. We have to create our own scratches. We have to think, oh, will this scratch or will this damage look good in this area? Because you just don't just add damages or weathering in the entire mesh. You have to think, this um why is there a damage, uh or why is there weathering in this area? Is it because the character has used this, let's say this weapon a lot? That's why the areas here is a bit more used. The color here has already faded. There's some fibers in some areas because probably the that character or the user is has a sweaty hand. That's why the color change. Um, the Of course, our hands sweat, and when you touch metals, there would be a different interaction of the metal in the long run. So I'm not sure if it's gonna rust or the color will change. So we really have to think about it when we were doing Photoshop. But now we have a Substance Painter, which makes your job a lot easier and so much faster. Before we would texture a an asset for like probably 2 days, but when Substance came, we could texture it for a day, let's say 5 to 6 hours. So we really saved a lot of time when Substance came. And all the texture there is procedural. Library is um, I'm not sure if it's always updated, but there's enormous libraries of procedural texture there. Um, and some people do textures in Designer, I think, and they could import the textures or the materials they've made in Designer to Substance so they could have something unique to use.
Are you using daw ano, Quixel Mega Scans?
Um, right now, I'm using Substance, but Quixel Megasang is an awesome software as well, um, because I think Unreal is using that, and other big companies, big gaming companies, are using Quixel. So you can use Quixel or Substance, which ever you prefer, since both of them are give good PBR textures. So yeah, and this is what when we combine all the bake materials of this bake, it would look like this. I added a base color, and a base color was added, and of course, a little bit of texture of wood to achieve this. So to achieve this, we go to Substance Painter. We texture it inside Painter. In here, what I did was I separated the the frame, the color of the frame, and the bullets and the wood. So if you notice, there's a bit of space here because this one is a different texture list in Substance. For those of you who are new in using Substance, um, Substance reads texture files, or yeah, texture files. So in case you'll be importing your asset from Maya to Substance, it will be reading all the default textures or materials that you added. Let's say you added 4 Lamberts in your Maya to this one mesh, then Substance Painter inside this one texture list will read all the four Lamberts that you created. So if you're wondering, so how many textures should I be using? Well, it depends on the artist. Sometimes I use just one texture list or texture, then I just depend on my vertex ID. but there are times that I use a lot of textures on my hmm, on my asset so that I have a lot more freedom to play around. And let's say, oh, I want to only texture the metal and I don't want to touch the wood. It would be so much easier for me. And then after that, I just combine them all inside Photoshop. Hmm. Then after we're done, oh, by the way, this is this in 3D mode, and this one is the 2D mode in Substance Painter. We could check both at the same time, or we could just choose one mode to the other. So Substance Painter still has the layers that you usually see inside Photoshop. So if you're familiar with Photoshop and its layering, and it would be a lot, let's say, easier, or you'll be a little bit familiar when using Substance Painter. So I think I would suggest that you could also use familiar with yourself with Photoshop and then go to Painter if you're ready. Then after we're done with texturing it inside Painter, um, we then export all of the files to from Painter to Maya. So once we've exported all of that, we then map all the textures that we've created. So this one, this is inside the hypershade, and these are the nodes. It may look complex to new users, but this is one of the simplest form that you could see. So we attach the color to the base color. We attach the roughness to the specular roughness. We attach the bump map, bump 2D, that's what it's called here inside Maya, but this is the normal map. We attach this to the normal camera and the metallic to the metalness. So once we've mapped all things out, we could see we could check it inside the viewport if it's the same from what we've seen in Substance Painter. You could also add a dome light and use the HDRI from Substance to Maya. All you have to do is just grab the link, the path, or the location of that HDRI to Maya so that you could have the same lighting. Just to make sure that, is everything correct? Does the light bounce correctly on what it did in Substance Painter? Yeah.
Miss Jack,
So if, yeah.
the spaghetti noodles, I think is ano 'no, nakakatakot, when
Yes.
you're starting out.
Yes! I was so scared too nung when I was starting Maya. Hala, ano yan? Ayun. But you'll get used to it, guys. This one is still clean. But you see a lot of asset here. You might get a little jumpy. Oh, so many things. But don't
Ano
worry,
daw,
guys.
how long did ano, it took you to parang to understand the nodes, when you were starting out? Parang when did the aha moment,
Ah.
came? Parang after a year ba of using Maya, playing around with Maya, or 5 years
Hmm,
pa,
grabe. Um, well,
your
good
tips as
question.
well on how we can quickly learn those squiggly wires
Hmm.
and how to untangle
Uh,
them.
well, my first tip would be that you should, I think, really be eager to learn, and you should be using it most of the time because um the problem nowadays is that some people would watch tutorial just for the benefit of watching it, but not really using it every day. So you forget. But if you work on the same asset over and over, you remember, and then eventually you'll understand. Oh, this is how things work. So it's really more on being familiar and digging deeper on what you've already learned. Plus, it would be beneficial if your vocabulary is wide because one term can be different to another software, but they have the same use. For this inside the node base, I would suggest that we start all you start with the base color, which is the base color. The color of everything, the color of the mesh that you have. Is it color orange? Is it color blue? Is it red? And then once you've familiar with the base color, and then you can then proceed with adding a normal map. And then if you're no longer satisfied with that, then you could go wider, adding more maps. So probably 1 to 2 maps at a time. Don't splurge on everything that you see because that would be really, really confusing. So baby steps lang muna. Ayun. How long? Probably kasi when I work on a company way back, I didn't know Maya. So my colleagues taught me how to use it, Maya. I was so overwhelmed because in 2 days I have to absorb everything that they taught me. I was able to absorb, but it was very overwhelming. And looking at these nodes is very confusing and intimidating for me. So I was like, oh man, I don't think I'm gonna I'm gonna survive. But since it's really needed at work, we have to study it, understand it, because if you don't, then that's gonna be a problem. So I'd say when I was probably working on a project, when I was working on a big AAA project, I was able to understand it more because I was doing 3D like the entire day. I go home, I study 3D. On weekends, I study 3D. So that's how my life went. And I eventually understood. And also, I frequently ask my colleagues, hey man, how does this work? Because I don't understand. It doesn't hurt to ask for advice, especially when you're stuck on problems, because that's how you grow. You ask, and then people will share their knowledge on what they do. Did I answer the question, John Mark? Was I able to answer it?
Yep, I think it boils down really to your interest and willingness, yeah, to learn.
Mhm. Yeah, it really boils down to that. So, once we're done assigning things, we could now do some beauty renders. So we could do some close up to see what the mesh would look like when the light bounces on the actual mesh. Uh, the carbon still finish. We are able to do. These are linear streaks of lights that is on the mesh. These are just textures. So you could do close up for when you're doing beauty render. So you can show it to your probably show it on your art station. But don't do that if you're under an NDA because that's illegal. You'll be sued. You have to show it to your team leads first and then your client. Okay? Never, ever, ever show a client's work unless you have their permission and that game is already published. Okay? Just you need to have the permission. So this one, I did not model this diamond shape. These are just decals. I cheated on,
Nerls. Yep.
yeah, I cheated this Substance Painter. Um, these are some scratches. Yeah. We have other close up. We could see some weathering here, bit of scratch there. This is just painted. This one is not. modeled as well. This is just texture with height. That's why we create an illusion that it looks model, but it's not. This is a very this is a very optimized version, but we could increase the the tessellation if necessary. But for this for this stock, we'll use this one. And then we have other beauty renders here, side view, and then some top view, and then could have a bottom view there, a bit of shininess on the wood, and then this one. Yeah. So this is the end of the PowerPoint. Just the PowerPoint, guys.
We have a question, Miss Jack.
Yes.
What do you use another software to create that beauty render? What software though did you use to create those beauty renders?
This we could use Substance Painter IRA. We could also use Arnold. You just have to do a lighting setup. We could also use Marmoset for portfolio rendering. So there's a lot. There's a lot of software that we can use. There's also V-Ray and Corona. I'm not sure.
Uh, for
So
this
there.
image that we're seeing now, what did you use
Oh,
for this?
this is just Array from Substance Painter.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. So this is for my presentation. So let me just open my Maya. Okay. Can you see my screen? I suppose so.
Yep.
So we're inside.
See Maya.
Yeah, awesome. So in here we're inside Maya, and when I begin my modeling, I usually have this image reference because I trace. I trace the shape and form. So this is what I was talking about when we were discussing the pure ref of underform. So we have this first view and then the details here. On the other view, we don't have details. So it's important that we have this and this top view so we could get a full dimension of the model. So I won't be modeling this I won't model everything, but as you can see, if we trace this, it would be a lot faster because we already have an image, a reference image, and yeah. So there's this. If the images does not fit, probably our image reference is not exactly on the same location, but you could adjust. So this is just for the cylinder. We get the position here or the width, and then we get here as well. So once we're done with that, you just eyeball at things. Um, that's when you created a blocking. Let me just reuse this. You've created a blocking of your mesh. Don't fret if your blocking looks like that it's not making you happy. It's just blocking. You're just getting the initial silhouette of it. So what I'm referring to silhouette is, let me just hide my light. Then there we go. So as you can see, this is just blocking, but look at it in this angle, it looks like a gun, the weapon. But this one is so simple, right? So once you're done with the blocking, that is when you proceed with adding a lot more details. So in here, oops, yeah. So in here, mhm. Let me just extract some parts. Extract pieces. So in here, we've added more detail, and if you notice, we have a lot of edges that is near from one to another. In here, if I press number 3 on the keyboard, it would smoothen out. So it's not far from the original shape, rather just a refined version of it. Also, we make sure that we make sure that all of the mesh are in quads. Try to avoid triangles as much as possible. As you can see here, when we say quads, it means four-sided, and when we say tries, it's three-sided. We are trying to avoid n-gons. N-gon meaning more than four vertices. So let's say, hmm, so we can call this space an n-gon because we have one, two, three, four, five. So we're trying to avoid that because if we have this n-gon present in the scene, there would be problems in terms of bounce light or the reflection of lights on your mesh. It may not be obvious here, but when we're inside the game, mm, the devs will not like it, so they will return the asset to you to be fixed. So let's try to avoid end guns.
Miss
Mm-hmm.
Jack?
Oops, yeah,
Yeah, correct me
yes,
if I'm wrong. Once more, it is preferred that the polygons be quads, but
yes.
triangles are forgivable.
Oh, triangles. Well, we try to minimize the triangles inside on the mesh. There would be unavoidable triangles like triangles on the lips for the characters, triangles on the eyes,
Ah,
triangles on
okay.
the areas here, probably triangles on the back of the ear, triangles on some other parts as well. Some are forgivable, but too many is not.
So there really are some instances where you get to encounter a triangle. There's no
Hmm.
such thing as a mesh all quads talaga.
There is.
There
Look at
is.
this, oh. Look, oh, this is a cube. If I
Uh, for characters. Ayan, for
for
characters.
characters, yes. Uh, there
Is
will
it
there
doable
will still.
na quads daw
Mm,
talaga lahat, walang triangle?
not quite sure. I think I can be wrong, guys, but I think there would be some areas that will be triangle. Uh,
Unavoidable.
uh, there would be some areas, but those areas would be not be seen, or that areas we're trying to avoid triangles is because when we animate the mesh, when you rig the mesh and then you animate it, we're trying to avoid folds that would make the character look weird. That's why we prefer quads. But yeah, there would come a time that triangles would be unavoidable, so we just make sure that everything looks okay. And does that
Okay.
satisfy you? Okay. So yeah, once we're done with the blocking and then adding a lot of edge loops in preparation for the high resolution, we even make sure that the insides, like this one, no, like this one, nope. Let me go here. The insides is like this, not. Let me just delete this. Not like this. Let me just extrude. We're trying to avoid me. I'm trying to avoid this. What do you call this? Star shape. We're trying to avoid this. Rather, we use this. It's because there was a workflow on a past game that we'd work on, and this is much more preferred on that game. It relates to the how light will reflect on the faces. When we say faces, this on the faces of the mesh. So of course, lighting is very critical. Um, the reason is that we're trying to avoid weird looking fragments or artifacts inside the game. That's why we prefer this kind of look oops, instead of something like this. So let me just delete that. After I'm done with the base mesh and smoothing, then we can smooth things out and commit to the high resolution. Oops. So the high res is like looks like this, more smooth. And then we have the optimized version that looks like this one. However, this one is too optimized. hmm Yeah. So that's for the what do you call this? That's for Maya. Also guys, make sure that you name your asset accordingly. This one is high resolution. This one is low resolution. Always make sure that you have very clean files when submitting to your team leads. So it would cut off the time of checking. It would shorten the time of checking and making sure that everything looks good, clean, optimized, and organized. Yeah. So that is for Maya. And now if we go to Substance Painter, let me just open my scene. Let's wait. Yeah. Yes. hmm So what this is what it looks like in Substance Painter. This is what my layer looks like inside Substance Painter. Let's just wait for the loading. There we go. Uh-huh.
Miss Jack,
Let yes.
what's the file format uh,
Mm.
for Substance Painter from Maya? Is it .ma, .obj? What's
Oh
the
yes.
preferred file format?
Well, for me, when I'm exporting my asset here in Maya, I export it using .fbx. I prefer FBX because FBX is very flexible. You can use it from one software to another, and that software can read FBX. So in here, this is the low resolution. I imported the .fbx file from Maya to Substance Painter. This is what it looks like. If let me just zoom in a bit. Hmm. Oops. Huh. Okay, here. If we remove the micro details, if you notice, all the dirt was is gone. So it is also advisable that you work on layers and you name those layers, of course. So this, let me unhide this. Let me hide some areas. Okay. So in this one, I use a wood American cherry, which is a default here in Substance Painter. We could change the um, the scaling of this. Let me just, oh, here it is. We could change the scale from so refined to not. So it really depends on what you like. Oops. If you want it to look like this or like this, that's okay. You can also rotate it. We could also go to the technical parameters and change the, oops. Just be careful, guys, when playing with your Substance Painter parameter because this is memory intensive. Therefore, one wrong touch or scrub on the in the parameters, it may cause your software to crash. So make sure that you have a very high memory when using this, especially when working on 4K textures. If you're working on 2K, that's all right. But if you're working on 4K, it will probably a bit lag, but it will still work. So just be careful. So we could increase the height range or not. If you want it to be more prominent, like when you look at it, you can touch it, the roughness, the engravings and stuff. You could there. And then this is where I added my decal or yeah, or the cheat that I did. So this, if I hide this, oops, oh my god. Okay, still working, but yes. So we could change this by going to, let me see, scale. Nope, not this one. Let me, oh, here it is. If I hide this, it will disappear. I created a grayscale. This one, I hope it loads. It's not loading. Well, actually, this one. So I created this black and white diamond shape at Photoshop because at first when I was looking at the reference, I was thinking if I should model every bit of it, but that would be time consuming and I think that would be very hard. I'm not sure if I could achieve that kind of level. So I decided to make this black and white and made sure that the spacing of the black and white is equal so that when I use this inside Substance Painter, it would look good. I had several tries of it, but the last one it worked. So this one is, I think, texture is 512 by 512 or 512 pixels by 512 pixels. It won't matter, I believe, if the pixel is that small because we would be rescaling this inside Substance. And from my experience, Substance Painter is a non-destructive texturing tool because we could um, play with the size from 4K to 2K to 1024 without sacrificing that much. So let me just try. I hope it'll work. So it's loading. As you can see, it reduced the details here. It's far more obvious, but um, the texture is still working. So if we want to use a 4K, we could just change and then we'll have a more detailed look of it there. For the metal, oops. So here for the metal, let's just go to the metal layer. There we go. So let's just wait for every layers to show up. Mm-hmm. So when I was doing this, I was really contemplating on what color it should be. I wanted black, but it's not black. Then I found out that it's bluish. So, oh, that's why I wasn't really that happy with the color that I was choosing. Oh, the color changed. Uh, it's because everything is off. Okay. So here for the body, let me just check. Let's make it 4K so it's more detailed, I suppose. Let's wait for it to load. There we go. It's almost done. hmm So it's reading everything, and now it's more detailed. The light is bouncing more. It looks more good. However, it's not yet done. Probably because I have a lot of software that is opened. That's why it's taking a lot of time. Okay, there. Okay. So if we check out the layers, I have here a steel. Whoops. Okay, I think it would be very challenging to turn on and off the texture on this. But yeah, if I turn off the steel, the the linear streaks that we saw a while ago disappeared. But if we enable it, it would be there. Mm-hmm. We have we added some dirt so that it won't look that much like a brand new. Also, we added some, oh, detailing. Is it detailing? Mm-hmm. So if you could hear a cat at the background, I do apologize. Is it? I'm so sorry. Yeah, so you could add a lot of micro details, like some scratches that we see here. I'm not sure if you could see the scratches here. You could paint that over manually, the scratches, or you could grab a brush, an alpha brush, your favorite alpha brush that uh, would resemble a scratch, and you could paint it over on areas that you like. So I usually use adding layers. Where you go? Oh, there you go. I usually use adding of layers and brush when needed. So let me just hide this. So this is my layer. I usually play with this when starting my mesh. I usually do the base color first. What's the initial color? And then I add a mask over it. Okay, it disappeared. And then from there, I could add a generator. Let's try adding a generator. We could add dirt again, probably. So as you can see, the red dirt is more prominent. So I usually work this way, adding my base color first, and then adding some generators. You could use different generators like the dirt or curvature or the the mask building. You can use that. Everything will really depend on what kind of finish that you are looking for. Oops. So we could reduce the grunge. Come on. We could reduce or increase the grunge or the dirt in this the weathering on the gun if we like. Once you're satisfied, and then I guess you could go rendering it. Let's change the color of this to, not sure. What color do you like, guys? Let's say it's toxic with some fungus on it. There. So if you're like, I think that's good, you can also reduce the opacity of it. You're happy. we're satisfied, let's we could adjust the metalness of it or the roughness. If you notice the roughness up here, yes. So once you're done, you could go to iRay. Let's have a different view. You could go to iRay, press this camera over here, and you wait for it to show up and do a bit of rendering. Well, if it doesn't show up, it says here that iRay is forming up to um, to show the its beauty render. Hmm. I should probably close this. And what else? I should probably, yeah, I think that will do. Find this weird that iRay is not functioning correctly. But if you guys have any questions that you would like to ask, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, from Mel Garce, no, earlier parang he was asking ano daw, what's the difference between bakit daw meron pang ano Autodesk 3ds Max and Autodesk Maya? What's the difference daw mainly for the two? What are they both good at for?
Hmm. Both are, from my experience, both are very powerful tools in creating different meshes. Some studios use Max, 3ds Max for creating games. Some use Maya for creating games as well. But from what I've noticed, a lot use Maya for animation and effects. Max, a lot use it to for effects and for architectural modeling. However, you could also do that in Maya. So I think it really falls down on the preference of the people that will be using it. But both are really, really good. So here's what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. Oh, yeah. We weren't able to go to array because it's not working perfectly. I mean, it's having a hard time doing some renders. Yeah. So this is the workflow when creating game asset. Once you're satisfied with the texturing, you can check all of this back to Maya, which I just closed. You can check all of this back to Maya, and then once everything optimized, clean, the file names are given correctly or typed correctly, we can now export that asset as a .fbx. Make sure that we embed the media file so that the texture will still be recorded or captured by that .fbx. And so when we import it inside the engine, um, the maps will be read by the engine. The asset will have complete texture and it will be, and then we could test it if it's really working. If it's not working, if there's a problem of the tessellations or topology or optimization, we could just check it back again on our 3D software. But yes, this is the workflow that we usually follow or do when making games. Uh, I've made games for more than a decade, and I'd say that game development has a very solid pipeline in creating assets. So that's it for this talk. I think you're muted, Jomar. I cannot hear
Yep.
you.
uh, Okay, so for those who has comments, questions, and suggestions, feel free, yep, to message us. And I guess the first question daw, ma'am, parang there's a lot daw of technical terms. Okay?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Ano daw yung what's anti-alias?
Anti-alias. Huh. Very good question. Actually, what is it? I think I forgot. But it's I think it's related to the materials of the mesh. Um, I've encountered this term before, but I've completely forgotten about it. Although,
Ayan. Ano daw yung in layman's term daw, what's ambient occlusion? Ano ba yung mga terminologies na yan?
sorry, ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is the here. This is the ambient occlusion. These are actually like trap lights on the mesh. So it records all the shadows that are seen on crevices, or one mesh to the other. So these are bake maps. So therefore, that way before we don't have to. mm, we could make the illusion that this mesh, it helps with the detailing of the high resolution. So basically, these are just trap lights on the crevices of the mesh. You see those shadows over there? Those are baked.
Ayan,
Yeah, is there
no.
anything else?
From Paul Coffee daw, it's anti or anto daw. Anyways, from Raymond Mapalad, that's a graphical light reflection, di ba? Anti-alias. Ayan, another question from the children. Ano daw po yung bump maps?
A bump map.
Google
Bump
Maps, pero there's bump maps now in texturing.
bump map. Hanap tayo ng picture ng bump map. Bump map is a black and white. Um,
Sample daw, sample.
hanap tayo ng picture. Bump mapping. So siguro ito pwede na to.
Ayan.
So this one,
Mm.
ayun. So this one is a bump map, or the black and white. So bump map creates the illusion na from the word itself, bump. It makes things look add bump to the mesh that is flat. That was way before. But then, na-introduce yung normal map. So, mas ginagamit na si normal map. Kasi colored siya. So, when you use bump map and there's a light that pass through, madadaya yun ni bump map, creating the illusion na, oh, this, I think, is a high-resolution detailed mesh. But when we check it, yung wireframe niya, it's actually just a flat face. So, it creates that illusion. Lalo na nung dumating si normal map kasi it's RGB, so colored. Mas okay siya gamitin. Ayun.
Okay, from Syra Banagwas. Ayun, thank you, Sai. Can 3D models from Maya be printed in 3D printers? If yes, what file type is needed?
I think it's .stl. Not really sure, could be wrong, but I think that's it.
Maya can
Is it?
export that file type, .stl.
Mm, we could
Tama
check.
ba?
We could check. Where's my Autodesk?
Na, for example, that pistol, can you export that into
Ah, when
.stl?
When we're gonna print this, it should be, from what I learned, the mesh should be intact. There shouldn't be any holes on it. It should be solid so that the 3D printer will be able to read or make a good file of it. So, let me just check if we could, because I haven't tried. If we are to export the selection, if there's an STL here, then we could. But if doesn't, or I'm pretty sure there is. I think we just have to enable it on the preferences, modify, no, Windows Workspace, setting preference, plugin manager. If there's an STL here in the plugin manager, then we could stage STL. Ayun, there's an STL translator. I think this is the one. I haven't tried actual 3D printing, but my friend does. I have some friends who does it, and yeah. So I think we'll just enable this so that we could export it mm, to the file type that we want. But better yet, better as companies that has uh 3D printers, if they do accept STL. If they don't, then ask for a different file type. Mm-hmm.
Ayan, I guess some of us here are Fusion 360 users din eh. So, can we export that as well? File save as to .stp
.stp.
or step
Uh,
file? Meron ba
uh,
diyan?
Hanapin natin. Let me go to Windows, setting prep. Nope. Let's go
Saan
to
ba yung ano,
Windows.
when you do FBX export, may are parang save as,
I
is
did
there
some.
any save as thing there?
Of course, we just go to save scene as, and then these
Ah.
are the only available, ASCII and binary.
How do you export that FBX? Maybe nandun din.
Oh, if we go to export selection, this is the file type.
Ayun,
Um,
there is.
there's, is this the
Step.
one? Step in. So there's available.
Oh. In addition, there's also DWG for AutoCAD, DXF,
Mm-mm.
CATIA.
So I guess there's a lot.
Ayan, do you use ano, Miss Jack, do you use Arnold as well?
Yes, we use Arnold for rendering.
Do you have
Actually,
a do you have a
mm-hmm.
quick scene for that pistol to be rendered in
mm,
Arnold with ano substance?
let me just,
Ayan,
okay.
so that the textures we are seeing right now, those are from ano na din, substance.
Yes, these are from Substance.
Oh.
So
So
if
it's
we,
really ano, moving back and forth.
mm-hmm. Well, it's not actually moving back and forth. If you imagine it, we're just actually following a workflow that is,
Mhm.
you need to texture it, and then when you're done texturing it, you'll export it back just to check for checking. So let me just open my Arnold. So I'm not sure if this might take a while. I think if I look on a different side, this one is more has more light. so we could get more information. So there, this is what it looks like on the
Looks like ano,
level
it's
system. Mhm.
ayan. Mukhang kailangan niyo na atang i-close para masyadong processor intensive, nag-hang ka bigla. So I think ano 'no,
Oh,
Arnold, what does it use? Is it, um, more relying on CPU or GPU, Arnold?
hmm. Probably. I'm not quite sure, to be honest, Jomar,
Ano
for
daw,
Arnold.
curious to see your, task, manager.
Ah,
How does your what's
I
the
okay.
performance of your ano, of your PC right now? With StreamYard, with
Performance.
Maya, with Substance, all opened up.
So do you want me to render?
That for now at least show your ano, your task manager
Okay.
to reveal the
My,
CPU and memory ano usage.
so this is my task manager.
Yan, sa
Um,
performance daw po. Curious to know, to see. Yan, sa performance tab.
mataas daw yung Microsoft Edge. Dahil sa StreamYard.
Yan, sa
Eh,
performance tab. Ano kaya?
performance.
Oh. So right now, 11% of CPU and then currently you're consuming ano, almost 30 gigabytes of RAM.
Well, yeah. Memory intensive tong substance din nila, lalo na kung 4K.
Hmm.
I-close ko na.
Ang laki daw ng memory mo, ma'am. Buti ka pa, sana all. More than 64 gig yung RAM mo.
Yeah, for simulation purposes.
Ayan. Are you using a desktop daw or
I'm using a
mobile
desktop.
workstation?
I'm using a desktop.
Grabe daw yung RAM mo. Sabi ni Z, sana all. For CPU, what are you using? i7, Xeon?
I'm using TR4 1950X. This is an AMD
Hmm,
setup. hmm It's a
okay,
16 core.
16 core.
hmm I specifically made this setup for simulation purposes for VFX.
Ayan. Ano daw po recommended ano nyo, PC builder? Was it through PC Express lang or saan nyo daw pinagawa yung ano na yan, rig mo na
Oh,
yan?
actually, I ordered this at Amazon because I was able to do that because the company I was working on back then was ordering workstation, and I asked my boss if I could tag along. He said yes. So I was able to buy all the specs that I need in a much lower price. Because compare here in the Philippines, prices soar up high. But in Amazon, I think it's way cheaper. Ayun.
Ayan. Are you using daw ano, what's your ano daw, GPU? Is it RTX?
I'm just using GTX 1060. Mhm. Quite disappointed.
Hindi, maano na
Still
daw, yung
powerful.
RAM pa lang ma'am, eh, ano na daw, eh, very
Mm.
expensive na daw, eh.
Mm.
And definitely your motherboard is as well, if it has that ano 'no, RAM slots.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
another question, for the young ones daw, who would like to be, in the game industry for modeler, what's your suggested, software to learn? Max, Maya, Blender?
All of them. Well, actually, you could narrow it down by on what company will you be applying at. Let's say company A uses 3ds Max, then study 3ds Max. Company B and C uses Blender or Maya, then focus on those software.
Okay, so do a background check din pala 'no?
Mm, very important.
Ayan, sabi ni Sir Raymond, kaya kaya third gen na i7?
Third
Lols.
gen, third gen i7, di ba malakas na yun?
Oo nga,
Ay, third, ay
i7
hindi.
nga, eh.
i7 pala, third gen. I really can't tell.
I think it can, Sir Raymond, i7 na pala yan, eh. Parang you just to need to ano na lang, invest more in RAM, definitely, tsaka GPU.
Third gen daw eh. Anong hertz nun? Anong speed nun?
Ayan, another question, Unreal or Unity for those who ano, into game dev din?
Um,
Ano
both are
preference mo?
powerful. Well, I've used Unity before. Right now, I'm delving using Unreal. Pero both are good. I mean, both are awesome. So, yun.
Sa beginners daw ma'am, anong preferred mo? I-suggest Unreal o Unity?
Saan ba gagamitin? Ayun.
Ah,
Mm.
ano ba yung mga instances na gagamitin? So, 'pag ganito Unity, 'pag ganito Unreal, ano yung mga yun? Ano yung mga instances na yun?
Um, let's
For
say,
FPS. So, let's say for FPS or for architectural rendering, gano'n. O for first
mm,
person shooters, mga gano'n. May mga gano'n ba na category na
mm,
what do you think?
ah, um, I from what I remember, both offers how do you call this, template that you can use when starting when starting using these engines. So if you want to do FPS, there's already a ready-made template for that that you could explore. If you want to do a racing game, there's already a template for that too. If you want a different kind, like a 2D 2D game, top down, I'm not sure if that's the right term, but there's already a template for that. So I love both engines because I was able to use Unity first way back, and it was very user friendly. Now I'm using Unreal Engine, and the technology is um, so unbelievable, especially the Unreal 5 and what it's capable of doing, especially that they teamed up with Quixel Megascan, and there's a lot of library to it. But to conclude, both softwares will do. It will just fall down on what's your intention on using them, on using it. Hmm. Are you still there, Jomer? For those who ask for the anti-aliasing, it's used to add more realism to your mesh, to your scene, so that you would avoid those pixelated stuff that you see on the textures. Yeah, or the blurriness, when you zoom in and zoom out.
Ako nawala.
No worries.
Ayan. So, another question. Parang there's so many products under the substance category, Miss Ja. Ano, ano yun?
Mm.
Any idea ano yung difference between them and ano daw yung dapat matutunan? We're seeing here parang painter, designer, sampler, stager.
This, etong painter and designer pa lang yung na-encounter ko. I haven't used sampler or stager, but based from what I've seen on their introductory video, I guess the stager is like render state of the art. I think this like marmoset, or there's another render software out there, but I think it's the purpose of the stager. The sampler, I'm not quite sure because I haven't used this honestly. The painter is where you texture, designer is where you design or create unique texture materials that you would like to use on your environment scene. Not just environment, but probably on cloth design, etc., etc.
Ayan. Any experience daw with Marvelous Designer? What does it do?
Marvel's Designer is a software that, yeah, is most studios use Marvelous Designer. Are we talking about Marvelous Designer?
Yep, yep.
Marmoset? Marmoset? I'm sorry. I got I got lost there. Is it Marmoset?
Marvelous
Oh,
Designer.
Marvelous Designer. Okay. Um, Marvelous Designer is used for plus.
Hmm.
How do you say this? Yes. If you want to make more intricate design or folds on the jackets, or flow of the dress, big dress, or yes, you could use that. It's like you're a digital sastre. Ayun.
Ayan. So I guess final question daw. What are your tips daw for ayan, fresh grads to land their first job or gig after graduation? What are your tips on how to be
My
employed
tips.
in a studio?
First, my tips would be to fresh graduate is that make sure that you have a ready-made demo reel or portfolio. It's much better if your portfolio has unique art asset or art content, because usually when students submit demo reels, it would be like a duplicate of one asset to another because this was their project, this was their assignment. So for us looking at it, I think I've seen this before. So try to avoid that. Rather, make your own design. Do a lot of research also when applying to a company that you really like. If it's a game company, make sure you know what games they made because they may ask that on the interview. Um, Also, make sure that you're fully committed when you're applying. It's not there's no touch move in applying, guys. Because if you're not ready, if you're not ready, we'll definitely know. Um, Based on your answers, we'll really get to see what you're really thinking. So first is have a ready-made portfolio. Make sure everything is unique. All your artworks are unique. If you're making fan art, that's okay. But if you could do your own design and research on that particular 2D or 3D, that would be great. Because it means that you want to create something that's really you. That's what you really love. Also, make sure that you have accessible portfolio website that we could easily access. And what else? And do your research on the studio that you're applying to. Make sure you know the software that they're using, the current projects or the past projects that they've done, so you'll have an idea what their future projects might be, and therefore you'll be ready.
Ayan, okay. So, yep. Once more for those uh, who has further questions to Miss Jack,
Really.
feel free feel free to reach out to her, Jackie Vicente, in LinkedIn. Okay. So once more, thank you everyone for those who joined us. To our community members daw, no? What else do you want to learn? Comment down below na lang
Mm-hmm.
for your suggestions. O nga, no? Hindi ko pala okay, last na talaga. Ginagamit ba daw yung Miss Jack, yung ZBrush sa game dev or no?
Of course.
Ano yung
We use
ZBrush
it.
sa game dev? Parang
We
hindi mo na touch
use
on daw eh.
yes, I wasn't able to touch down ZBrush because I just made a hard surface revolver. But yes, we use ZBrush a lot in game dev, especially when we're working on characters. We make our base mesh first on Maya. So base mesh, make sure that all the silhouette is perfect. The body, the cloths, the pants, the accessories are good or done perfectly. So after that, we import that inside ZBrush, and then we add a lot of details there. Details like stitches, like folds and creases. We could also add the skin. The pores of the skin. We could also add it there. So and we also do some folds of the clothes inside ZBrush. So yeah, we really use it a lot. On hard surface, we use it too. Like if we need to add dents on some parts of the mesh, let's say a tank that is destroyed, we could add further details on it, like more scratching, even if we can do that in Substance Painter. But if we could add more details and information on ZBrush, we'll do that there. So we have to sculpt it, and we use it.
Ayan. So once more for those who are interested to bring Substance, Adobe, Autodesk, ayan, and the ZBrush, and feel free to message us anytime. So once
Mhm.
more, Miss Jack, ayan, super thank you for sharing us your time and your knowledge. Sana po makaulit kami.
What?
Ayan. At
Mhm. We
and
can
to
talk
our
about
audience,
that.
And to our audience, ano yan, sana po, we hope we have been a blessing to you, most especially Miss Jack. A blessing to you and an inspiration for you to, yeah, dive into the world of 3D arts. Ayan. Thank you, Miss Jack.
Thank you so much, John Mark and CAD Community Asia, for inviting me in this event. By the way, can I do some plug?
Yes, we're waiting for you to do that.
Okay, I have a website. It's realeffects. It's realeffects. You can find it at Facebook. It's actually more on
Please share your, ano daw
more
po, please
more
share your
about.
screen.
Let me just check it. It's more about VFX. It's really new, but you could check out the things I do there. Sometimes I post, but most of the time I'm stuck at work. So, but I do try. I do try. Let me just go to my hmm, hmm,
Yep.
home
What we're seeing
page.
right now is the beauty render ano eh,
Yeah.
slide data.
So yeah. So this is RealFX. This is my website. Not website. It's my page. You could follow me here for more VFX. If you're interested, I do some tests here and some projects that we work on that is already released. I put it here. It's still in its early stages, but do follow me so you could you know get to know more about effects because I might share or may share in the future some effects tutorials here. So yeah, and I'll be also in 2022 I'll be releasing some tutorials over YouTube and probably on Udemy and Skillshare.
Awesome. So looking forward to that. Ayan. Ayan. Again, thank you po. And yeah, we hope we have been a blessing. So hoping to see you on our communities then. Ayan. Thank you, Miss
Thank you
Jack.
then. Thank you. Bye bye.
My name is Mr. McCluskey, and your minds now belong to me.
Huntley Boarding School for Boys just hired its newest teacher.
Books? You choose to read those books? I think not. It's time to strike out in your own minds.
Audiences and critics are raving about Mr. McCluskey's Method, the new film from acclaimed director Autodesk.
Close those books. Close them! And choose your own path. Except for you, Thorndyke. You keep reading. How can you design your future if you only read ancient stories of yesteryear? You need to live in the now, to create and visually communicate. How else will people see your glorious vision if not visually? Explore the rich colors of life in beautiful 3D.
Jensen Coswell of the Chicago Tribune hails Mr. McCluskey's Method as a classic, one of the best motion pictures I've ever seen or ever will see.
Harrison! Is your house flat? According to this, it's a square with a triangle on top. I ask you, whoever designed their dreams in 2 dimensions? Welcome to the digital age, boys. This is how you surpass your antiquated competition. Not with a crayon, or a pencil, or a single tool on a desktop, but with a suite of instruments that will give you all the design cred you need. Visually communicate your ideas in 3 dimensions. Share them with friends. Take your designs with you wherever you go. It is time to stop acting like Neanderthals or public school kids with a single Stone Age tool. Progress is made by lazy people looking for easier ways to do things. So I tell you, be lazy and blow the competition away.
But we're kids.
No. You're engineers. You're architects. You're artists. You're designers!
Bill Carnahan of the Baltimore Gazette says Jason Reeves' performance as Mr. McCluskey will be studied for the next 100 years. It's that good.
Don't let the previous generation's expectations limit you. Don't you see? That's what you get with this software. And besides, it's free to students. So use it.
Mr. McCluskey, report to the headmaster's office. Mr. McCluskey, report to the headmaster's office immediately.
And wait till you discover the secret he's been hiding.
I have a confession, boys. I have a confession. I'm not a real teacher. I'm kind of a software sales guy.
If you only see one Oscar-glomming art house film this year, choose wisely. Choose Mr. McCluskey's Method.
You're teaching to me, Mr. McCluskey.
Now in eye-shattering 3D and 2D where applicable.